The video shows cops recording a residential street. But what is going on here, and why is the officer recording everything? Stay tuned to find out. Later, it was revealed that the video showed undercover cops correcting pedestrian offenses and investigating a case. James McLennis, who operates the Pinellas County Sheriff's Channel, provided the content. The interaction involved several deputies from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office parked on a residential street while conducting an investigation near a nearby residence.
Just all the undercover police cars. Police sheriffs at this house. Undercover.
I don't know, take a video of and stuff like that.
And this one here does not look like a police vehicle.
What exactly are you doing?
McLennis begins recording the interaction as he walks in the middle of the street, arguing that there are no sidewalks and that the officers have blocked the side of the road. He further tells an officer that engaging in the act of recording a video in this situation falls under the protection of the First Amendment, as it is considered a constitutionally protected activity.
Hey, sir. You know what else says that? ID on you?
I don't need ID.
Yes, you do need ID.
No, I don't need ID.
If you're coming into the middle of our investigation, you do.
Actually, this is the middle of the street, and I'm walking on a public street.
You're not supposed to be in the middle of the street, so that's a violation.
Actually, there's no sidewalks here, so it's not.
You cannot be in the middle of the street.
Well, you notice you're blocking the way on the side of the street.
All right, let me get a pad. You have ID at all?
During the encounter, McLennis asserts that he's not required to provide identification to the officers. However, the officers argue that since he is intervening in the middle of their investigation, he must provide identification. McLennis counters their claim by stating he's simply walking along a public street, which lacks sidewalks. He points out that he's not obstructing traffic since there is ample space on the side of the street.
I don't have to show ID. I have not committed a crime.
Did you drive here?
No.
But you have to ID who you are.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Under Florida statutes, we're not an ID upon demand state.
McLennis maintains that he is not obligated to present ID since he's not committed any crime. However, the officer insists that McLennis must provide identification, even questioning if he drove to the location. McLennis continues to assert his position, stating he is not legally required to provide identification, citing that Florida statutes do not classify the state as an ID upon demand jurisdiction.
Am I being detained?
Are you writing him a ticket? You do understand when there's not a sidewalk, there's a certain direction that you need to write. You need to walk on the street, right? You can't just walk down the middle.
Well, when you have all the cars blocking the side of the road, it makes it kind of difficult.
Okay, well, guess what, Perry Mason? Since you're so good on the
Well,
First
are you a
Amendment and the
police officer?
Constitution and all that.
As another officer joins the conversation, they inquire whether McLennis intends to issue a ticket. They then explain that when there's no sidewalk available, there is a specific direction for pedestrians to walk onto the street, emphasizing that walking in the middle is not permissible. McLennis responds by highlighting the challenge of following the designated walking direction when all the cars are blocking the side of the road.
You're so good on the First
Are you a
Amendment and the
police officer?
Constitution and all that.
I'm asking you to
Read the
identify yourself.
statutes. Excuse me?
I'm asking you to identify yourself. Are you a police officer?
Yes, I am.
Can you please give me your name and badge number?
No.
Are you refusing to identify yourself?
What, is there a Florida state statute that says I must?
I think it's are you a Pinellas County Sheriff?
Yes, I am.
McLennis requests the officer to identify themselves by providing their name and badge number. The officer declines to comply with the request. McLennis then questions whether the officer is refusing to identify themselves and asks if there's a Florida state statute that mandates such identification. The officer suggests that it is likely the case, but McLennis inquires specifically about the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office policy regarding citizen requests for officer identification. The officer does not provide a clear response.
How am I supposed to file a complaint against you?
Okay. What do you want to file a complaint
No.
for? Because if you want it, I'll give it to you.
I do want it. I've
Okay,
asked for
but
it.
let me finish my train of thought
Go
first
ahead.
before you interrupted me with all your Perry Mason stuff.
McLennis continues to express his frustration and asks the officer how he's supposed to file a complaint if needed. The officer responds by asking for clarification on the reason for the complaint. The officer then asks McLennis if he understands that there is a Florida state statute prohibiting walking in the middle of the road, seeking a simple yes or no answer to his question. As the two other officers join the conversation, they question McLennis' statement that they are not blocking the road. McLennis responds by reiterating that the officers are obstructing the pathway on the side of the road.
How are we blocking you?
Exactly.
You
I
are
guess
blocking
that
the
pretty much answers your
pathway
question,
on the side of
doesn't
on the side of the road. This is the intimidation that the Pinellas County Sheriff's try and use if you exercise your First Amendment activity.
No,
They surround
actually-
you, accuse you of crimes, refuse to identify
not a
themselves,
crime, it's a
intimidate
civil
yourself.
infraction.
Why aren't you continuing with your investigation? Why are you out here bothering me?
He suggests that this behavior is an attempt by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to intimidate individuals who exercise their First Amendment rights. McClinnis further asserts that the officers surround individuals, accuse them of crimes, and refuse to identify themselves, creating an environment of intimidation.
Here, it's not a pedestrian violation, but nice try.
You're right. You're the expert. You know, I've only spent 20 years doing this job. You're the expert, though, right?
After 20 years, you still think it's necessary?
After
20 years, you think it's actually necessary to come out in the street and bother people who are walking by?
You can't walk in the middle of the road.
And when you have the street blocked, the side of the road blocked.
The street's not blocked.
You have the side of the road blocked.
The street's not blocked.
Sir,
Yeah.
The street's not
shine,
blocked.
shine your phone that way, because I want to make sure that you see this as well, that this is on video.
Yeah, I'll shine the phone.
So from here all the way through, past the area that you actually walk through.
McClinnis questions why the officers are bothering him instead of continuing with their investigation. He asserts he was simply walking with his camera in front of him and questions if the officers have an issue with that.
See this as well, that this is on video.
Yeah, I'll shine the phone.
So from here all the way through, past the area that you actually walk through, the street is not blocked.
This side of the street is
vehicles are on the
blocked.
curb, but you actually walk. So how is that actually blocking
This side of the
these
street is
streets?
blocked.
Okay.
McClinnis argues there was no civil infraction committed on his part, emphasizing that walking in the middle of the road is not a pedestrian violation when the side of the road is blocked and there are no sidewalks available.
By walking down the middle of the street and
Is there
conducting a
anything
First
else that you
Amendment
would like to
activity,
talk about? Is there anything else you would like
I
to
didn't
talk
want
about?
to talk to you, any of you, in the first place.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You can leave now.
Thank you, appreciate it.
The officer sarcastically remarks that McClinnis must be the expert, despite their 20 years of experience on the job. McClinnis responds by pointing out that even after 20 years, the officer still believes it is necessary to come out onto the street and bother people who are merely walking by. As another officer approaches McClinnis, they ask him to shine his phone in a particular direction to show him that the street's not blocked beyond the area where he walked. The officer argues that since McClinnis walked on the curb, it did not hinder the side of the street. McClinnis reiterates there are no sidewalks available, emphasizing the lack of an alternative path. The officer responds by stating McClinnis is impeding their ongoing investigation.
I still can't walk down this side of the street,
asked you and told you to leave. Leave now.
so I have to leave the street.
Leave this investigation right now.
So where is the investigation? Where's the blue line? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is she impeding the investigation too? I'm just curious.
McClinnis insists he still cannot walk on the side of the street. He questions the whereabouts of the investigation and sarcastically asks if the blue line indicating police presence extends to different areas. The implication is that the officers are unnecessarily impeding his right to walk freely. Mr. McClinnis continues to videotape the police vehicles as he carefully left the location, having no further problems. He then attempted to register complaints against the deputies involved. Mr. McClinnis started the process by requesting public documents to find out who the deputies were. Unfortunately, his request was refused and the needed information was not given to him.